Have you ever been in a situation where you can see that if things keep going the way they are going, there's going to be a bit of a decline in the experience? Have you ever wondered what to do when you can see that things are going to go off track, and you wonder if it's your place to do something? Have you ever been in that place where you know you could do something and you're like, oh, not sure if I should? Or maybe you've seen someone else about to go off track. Not a situation, but a person who looks like they're heading down a path that isn't great, and you wonder what to do. Or the other way around, where you see someone who's doing less than they're capable of, and you just know that there is more that they have to offer than what they're showing to the world. This is especially true if you're a parent. Everyone can identify with seeing their child underperforming at times and wishing they could do something to get through to their child. Or maybe you've been that child. Maybe you've been an adult and someone has said, you know, you could do more than you're doing. Or they've come to you for help. And what have you done in response? Well, if you've experienced any of these, and of course you have because you have a heartbeat, then the story of Jesus' first miracle actually has some insight for us. Most of us think of the story of the miracle of turning water into wine, which Jesus did at a wedding celebration in Cana. Most of us think of it simply as a story about Jesus' first miracle. And it's a lovely story. And I think it has some insight for us in how we step up when we see something is going sideways, and how we step in to take corrective action. And then also how we step away when it's no longer our responsibility, when we've done our part. The story is told in the Gospel of John in chapter 2, and it happens early in Jesus' ministry. In fact, really, we don't hear about Jesus other than his birth, and then we hear about him at presumably an early adolescent age where his parents can't find him, and they find him in the temple with all of the priests chit-chatting around. But that's all when he's little. And then we don't hear from him or about him until he's aged 30. And this is the story that we hear. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. When the steward tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it came, when the steward tasted the water that had become wine, he did not know where it had come from, though the servants who drew the water knew. The steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs in Cana, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. And then he went down to Capernaum with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they remained there a few days. It's kind of a cute story, really. We have a big party going on. Mary, in my imagination, Mary is one of the people helping to make things happen at the wedding. It's a community wedding. Everybody is invited. And she notices that the wine is running out. So she does what she knows could make a difference. She goes to Jesus and she says, "The wine's running out." And Jesus, just like every other kid, first response is, "What are you telling me for?" And then you could see, again, my imagination, I can see him thinking, "I probably could do something about this, but no, my time is not yet come." Such a powerful word, "my time is not yet come." And then Mary goes away, Jesus goes and does his thing, and the party gets juiced up again. And we see these two characters, Mary, who steps in to do something, and Jesus, who steps up to make it happen. So I want to look at these two characters and how they behaved with an idea to understanding what we can do when we want to step in, when we care enough to want the very best, and the way to do it would be to step in. And then I want to take a second part, and that is to look at what our response is when someone comes to us and says, "I think you could help make the party bigger." The party of life, the party of whatever experience it might be. And how do we step up? First, let's look at Mary and what we can learn from her about stepping into a situation. Consider what you're most likely to do when you see things going downhill. The things that don't work include deciding that the correction is not worth the effort and leaving things as they are and allowing the situation to unfold. In effect, we're saying sometimes the juice is not worth the squeeze. I love that expression. I just heard it, so I have to share it. And I'm finding it everywhere now. Sometimes the juice is just not worth the squeeze. And that's a very fair and intelligent response when that is the truth. So it's none of these are necessarily wrong. They're just going through a discernment process. Sometimes, is this worth stepping in? Maybe not. Sometimes we decide that the situation is outside of our sphere of influence, that there is nothing that is within our power to do anything about it, in which case the most intelligent thing to do is to relax and enjoy it as much as we can anyway. Make the best of a situation that might be less than ideal. Or we can start to see the situation devolve, and we can panic. We can start to become infected by the fact that this is going to happen, or affected by the fact that things are not ideal. And we can actually help to accelerate the fizzing out of whatever it is. We become part of the problem. Or we lose our composure and just make everything worse with that. We can also name, blame, and shame. Name. Who's responsible? Who should have done that? Who was responsible for ordering and they didn't order enough wine? Or they're incompetent, they're thoughtless, they're cheap. Sentences that begin with why or who are clues that we're not going to add to the situation in a positive way. Neither will the word should. They should have done this. How come they didn't do that? If you find yourself using those words, notice and ask yourself whether they're actually going to help anything. It's true that maybe somebody should have ordered more wine. Maybe it's true that they are budget conscious. Maybe it's true that there were things that could have been done that weren't done. But in the heat of the moment, that's trying to, what's the saying? Closing the barn door after the cattle have left. It's too late to worry about that stuff. The only intelligent thing to do is to assess whether or not there's something we can do about this, and then act on it. And that is what we see in Mary's behavior. We learn 3 things from her example. The first is that assessment process. Mary notices that the wine has run out. That means that the juice that's liquefying the party, that sounds terrible, but the spiciness, the fun, the enjoyment is going to be affected in some way. And if you don't like the word wine, that's okay. Add some other flavored beverage to your picture. It's to do with the idea that the spiciness, the flavor is about to run out. And she assesses and realizes that she knows someone who might be able to do something about it. So she goes to Jesus. Rather than accept that less than desirable status quo, she assesses and then takes action. Then she approaches Jesus. There's no guilting in how she does it. There's no manipulation. It doesn't even say that she says, "Can you do something about this?" All she does is bring it to Jesus' attention. And then she paves the way for success. She goes to the servants without waiting to hear whether in fact, Jesus basically said, no, don't bug me. But it didn't stop her from paving the way for success anyway. She goes to the servants and she says, do what he tells you. And then, and perhaps most powerfully of all, she walks away. There is no insisting, no nagging, no waiting to see what he will do. She assesses, she approaches, she paves the way, and then she accepts that she's done everything she can, and she steps away. So there's this step in, bringing to attention, doing what she can to ease the situation, paving the way for success, and then stepping away. Step in, step away. And what do we see in that for us? I'm a mom, man. So, and a wife. So my husband will tell you that if I see something that I want to be the very best, my tendency is not to be like Mary. It is to, sure, assess, there's something that could be done here, approach, here's what I'd like to see, or here's the situation, but this is where Mary and I go different ways, because I'm not as wise as her. And so then I'm like, so is it done? Are you going to do it? Have you made a decision? Can you let me know? How's it going? At that point, it's none of my business. Diane's laughing over there. Knowing when to step away, where I end and the other person begins, is what we can learn from the wisdom of Mary here. Step in, make the awareness request, step away. What about Jesus? What can we learn from him? I'll consider, how do you respond when someone comes up to you and says, there's this problem? Don't we do exactly what Jesus did? Like, first thing we'll say is, not my problem, their problem, they should have ordered more wine, all those things. And we see Jesus do that at first. And that's also a clue for us, because he didn't stay there. He realized and gave time to think about and consider the request, and then he took action. We may say, when somebody comes to us with an opportunity for us, we may say things like, it's not my problem. Or we may say, let them fail. It's, they made their bed, let them lie in it. We may say, when someone comes to us, like, why did Mary go to Jesus in the first place? Because she knew he could do something. There was a part of him that wasn't ready to step into his greatness. We had not heard about Jesus. He hadn't moved into his mission. until his mom came along and said, here's a problem. And his first response after, don't come to me with this, was, I'm not ready. But there was a part of him that needed his mom to call him up, to step up. Because he was ready. He just didn't know it. But the wisdom of Mary did. You may feel that same resistance when someone comes to you. The first resistance, not my problem, why are you wasting my time? Second resistance, you're asking me to do something that I'm not comfortable doing. Before we really look at the steps that Jesus took, think of the consequences of not stepping up. Sometimes we'll never know what we missed. Sometimes we care enough to want the very best so much that we wait until the circumstances are perfect. We've done another class. The stars are all in a line, and now I'm going to write my book or go back to school or whatever it might be that we long to do. Just like Jesus, my time has not yet come. What would have happened, I wonder? How long would we have waited for Jesus to begin his ministry if Mary hadn't tapped him on the shoulder and said, here's an opportunity for you? I wonder then how much greatness has gone undiscovered and unrevealed in each of us because of our reluctance to step up until the circumstances are perfect. So what can we do when the Mary in us says it's time, or a parent or a friend or a spouse says it's time, or circumstances say it's time? What do we see in Jesus' example? First, we see healthy relationship. He's actually open to listening to her. So be open. If someone says, you can do it, maybe we could consider being open and taking them at their word. Give it a shot. The second thing that we see in Jesus is his discomfort. Expect to be uncomfortable when you're stepping into something that is great. Whether there's a part of you who knows, whether there's a part of you which knows that you are ready to step into it or not. It's going to be uncomfortable. Do it anyway. And then we see that when Jesus does decide to step in, oh my goodness, he steps in with confidence. He steps in decisively. There is a commitment. Now I know what I'm going to do. Step up and do it. And then, and this is one of the nicest parts of the story for me, is he steps away. He lets the bridegroom get the credit for creating the wine. Now, I don't know about you, but if it were me, and I had just saved a party by creating the best wine, after the wine had run out and there was just going to be water, and now there's this juicy, top-notch, top-quality wine. I'd want everyone to know it was me who did that. And what did Jesus do? Stepped away. He did not claim the credit. There is power in humility. Because you know what? The story will get out if it's meant to get out. That's a challenging trait to copy. So Jesus' example, to step up, be open, expect to be uncomfortable, act decisively, and then step away. These two characters really help me to understand how I can lean into the idea of how to step up and how to step in when I want something to be the very best. When I want to add juice and flavor to life, when I want to add to the party of life, then I can act like Mary when I see something is going sideways, and I can step in, assess whether or not there's something I can do. Approach the person who can make the change, and then step away. When I care enough to want the very best, and I'm hearing a message about how I can step up, I'll try to be aware and be open, to expect the discomfort and not be afraid of it, to act decisively, and then to step away. When you care enough to want the very best, step in, act, step away. Step up, act, step away. You will add flavor to life. And that is your gift. I bless you.